Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics, and in this video I'd like to discuss Keir Starmer's demands for a national crime agency investigation into the £12 billion worth of COVID fraud that the government are failing to chase up, specifically in this case the furlough scheme. This is especially topical as the value of the fraud is basically the same amount that the government have just raised the taxes of ordinary people by. But first, if you'd like to be notified of daily news and politics, please subscribe to the channel and click the bell notification icon. So, problem. Labour have been consistently ahead of the Conservatives in the poll for quite a while now, but it's also clear that this is largely down to the Conservatives dissolving in their own filth by sticking by a criminal Prime Minister, at least for now, who does not even have the redeeming feature of making good on the promises that won him support from ordinary people in the general election. If I were to ask random people on the street about some Labour policies on hot button issues, I'm not sure I'd get an answer. Annoying, because Labour have announced policies. Yes, of course, the majority will come with the manifesto. When we get to a general election, you don't get a load of policies until that time. But there are some for the immediate issues of the day, including the cost of living crisis, which is the key issue for most voters. How would it not be? It is affecting people very badly. So how to get these across? Well, I keep saying they should make use of social media, but they seem to have a strategic black spot there. But the other way is to tie into what people are interested in. Now, as well as the problems with the cost of living, it's quite clear that voters are also unhappy that the government are breaking their own laws. And the furlough fraud is an ideal way to tap into both concerns at once. The furlough scheme itself was widely supported. It was not a political issue at all. It had enthusiastic cross-party support and won Rishi Sunak a lot of praise in the public. Now, there were issues at the time, it has to be said. This is none of this hindsight nonsense. At the time that Rishi Sunak was announcing it, there were people, including in Labour, who said, hang on a minute, this doesn't seem to be very well targeted. This could be open to fraud. Why don't you just do this or this or this instead? And Rishi Sunak said, no, I'm far too lazy to do any of that. And then we end up now in the situation where £12 billion worth of furlough money has gone on to fraud, and we're not chasing it up. But the furlough scheme itself, Rishi Sunak became very popular on the back of it. It wasn't his idea, of course, but he authorised it, so I've got no beef there. I'm fine with ministers taking credit. They did authorise it. Of course, now that Sunak has started implementing his own ideas and thrown ordinary people to the wolves with his latest budget statement, his public approval has sunk like a stone thrown off a bridge into a large river tied to an even bigger stone. But the Conservatives always deal with these things by telling people that it's down to circumstances outside of our control, and they're doing as well as anybody could do to handle it. And of course, naturally, way better than Labour would. The mainstream media cheerfully back them up, and that's that. But of course, it's not true, is it? And Keir Starmer is keen to point out to people that the extra money taken from ordinary workers in the form of the national insurance rise isn't to pay for social care or the NHS as the government claim. It's to pay for the criminals that the government are letting off. And this is fraud. This is people that claimed furlough money, not for workers, but by using falsified documentation, making false claims, deliberately false claims. This isn't like the equally staggering sums of money that the government have written off that was used to give Tory friends and donors in return for medical PPE that was either never produced or not what was ordered, and so might as well not have been produced. That money should be clawed back, of course, not abandoned. We should be getting that money back. If we didn't get what we paid for, the Treasury should be saying, well, have our money back then. This isn't what we ordered. But not many people are suggesting that those who fail to deliver on the conditions of their contracts be prosecuted for criminal offences. We should just get the money back from them. But the lost furlough money was not incompetence, apart from on the part of the Treasury. It was actual fraud, a quite deliberate criminal offence. It isn't just the Treasury who should be pursuing this, but criminal investigators. Hence Starmer's call for the National Crime Agency to get involved, given the scale of the fraud. £11.8 billion. That's a lot of anyone's money. It's a lot of money to expect workers to pay in extra taxes that the government promised would never happen during the general election campaign. It's a lot of money added onto the already huge cost of living rises, and it's a lot of money for both the government and law enforcement to allow criminals to steal without so much as an investigation. Because if they won't even investigate it, they are allowing it. Imagine an old-fashioned bank robbery and the police turning up and go, there's nothing we really can do here. The robbers seem to have fled the scene. And that's that. People should just move on. And politically, it's also a way for Labour to get their proposals to the public. Because whenever Boris Johnson or one of his ministers tries to say that they are delivering and Labour have got no plans, we need the public to say, hang on a minute, they do have a plan. We just need to know what it is. You're getting investigators to recover the £12 billion of furlough fraud. That means we don't have to pay the extra national insurance. That's the message that Labour need to get out there. These national insurance rise that you were promised would never happen, it's not for social services, it's not for the NHS. It's for criminals. It's to pay for the criminals that the government will not chase up. The windfall tax on oil companies, which France used to knock hundreds of pounds off the size of energy bills, another Labour policy. Like, what would ordinary people have against that? A tax on large corporations to allow for tax relief for smaller companies that are struggling with increased costs. Because it's the small businesses, after all, that employ the most people in the UK. And there are other policies as well, which are effectively continuations of what Labour were doing in government to reduce our reliance on expensive and volatile sources of energy, which the Conservatives put a stop to when they came to power. The trick will be, as always, getting that message out to people. If you can get that message out to people, it's a compelling message. It's obvious that people are not happy about the tax rises just at a time when the cost of living is out of control. But right now, they think the money is being used to improve things for the future. And people in this country, polling regularly shows the clear majority of people in this country do not mind paying their taxes as long as they're getting value from it. So they think it's going to improve social services or the NHS, and they go, it's unfortunate that it's having to come at this time, but okay, we want the NHS improving, we want social services improving. But you tell them, no, that £12 billion they're raising is to cover the £12 billion of COVID furlough fraud that the Treasury refuses to investigate and get the money back for. Well, people aren't so happy to pay it then. And I'm quite sure that many voters would be outraged to learn that the tax rises are actually just filling up a black hole in the finances left by actual criminals, furlough fraudsters, and that the government refused to take the money back when they easily could. But the government are refusing to claw the money back because I think they know that some of it will be pulled back by Tory backers. And Labour are not great at bypassing the mainstream media to get their message to the public. This is the problem. But if the National Crime Agency can be made to investigate, as the Met Police were eventually forced to investigate the Downing Street parties, could become quite newsworthy then. And if it does, and if people start talking about it more, it potentially opens up a wider debate into the options that the government actually had and how once again they chose, it wasn't this is the only thing we can do, they actually chose to help themselves and screw the rest of us. But those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. I hope you found the video interesting. If you did, please click the like button. And until next time, I'll see you later.